The Gaza Strip, once a bustling, vibrant community along the Mediterranean coast, now lies in devastation and ruins as it marks a grim milestone 1 year since the Israel-Hamas war began. Here's an up-close of the situation on the ground.
Gaza Strip, already strained by nearly 2 decades of an Israeli blockade, is now a landscape of devastation. A year of relentless bombardment has erased entire neighborhoods, uprooted families, and left essential infrastructure in tatters. The human toll is staggering. Hamas-controlled health authorities say 42,000 Palestinians have died. Countless missing and millions displaced. Gaza, once a bustling enclave, now bears the scars of war, while those who remain face a bleak and uncertain future.
We are displaced from school to school, from Gaza to Yarmouk, then back to the north, and then we flee again. We got displaced 5 or 6 times since the start of the war. We have been on this for a year. I swear we are exhausted.
Areas surrounding the Shifa hospital, Gaza's largest medical center, are flattened, leaving vital healthcare services crippled. High-rise buildings that once overlooked the sea are now piles of rubble, and the coastal highway is littered with remnants of destroyed buildings. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are forced to survive without electricity, clean water, or sanitation. Hunger and disease are spreading unchecked, while children and the elderly struggle to survive in the harsh conditions. With 40 million tons of debris to clear and an estimated $650 million required just to begin the cleanup, rebuilding seems an insurmountable challenge.
Before October 7, one had dreams. Me as a father, I have 6 children. My biggest burden was that I provide them with homes. I find them wives. But after October 7th, this came to nothing. After 58 years of work for me, same as my father, all of it was gone to dust and rocks.
As the violence continues to escalate, involving Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, and potentially Iran, fears are growing that the war could soon engulf the entire West Asia. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Indeed, it is the 1-year anniversary since the violence and the war began in Gaza. Let's talk more about that. Reza Khanzadeh is a West Asia expert. He's now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Khanzadeh, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to the broadcast. I just want to ask you, it's 1 year since the war in Gaza began. Do you think there are any lessons that have been learned? And if they are, what are they?
Well, thanks for having me. Lessons learned, I believe there are a lot. To go through them, I think, would take up too much of our time on this program, but I think the most important lesson has been shown that Israel does not have the support like it used to on the world stage, with the exception of the United States and perhaps a handful of other Western countries. The vast majority of the world has seen what Israel is capable of and the extent to which they're willing to go to reach their objective, which in the case of Gaza and West Bank, and now we're looking at Lebanon, is essentially genocide. They're willing to exercise military strength as well as starvation tactics and really any means at their disposal to try to eradicate what they say is Hamas and Hezbollah. But if you look at many of the human rights organizations, especially those even inside Israel, that these attacks are on the Palestinian people. So that is the greatest the greatest lesson learned, I think, from this past year, unfortunately.
Mr. Reza, let's talk about that point that you made last there. We are seeing a genocide indeed. Israel has vowed to continue with their military action, as they are calling it. That's what the Prime Minister of Israel is calling it. But why is the world not stopping Israel? What's the problem here?
The problem is quite simple, in my opinion. It is the United States, and specifically Washington, D.C., and currently President Joe Biden. They have essentially, or the White House, President Biden's administration has the sole power to stop Israel, and that's simply by cutting off their support for Israel's military capabilities. For as long as we have seen in history, the United States, and not just President Joe Biden, every U.S. president administration has bankrolled Israel's military capability. And with what's going on right now between Israel and Iran, and this back and forth, I guess, aerial bombardment, if you want to call it, that that Israel and Iran are displaying against each other, it's going to come to a point where both, one, if not both, militaries will run short of, aerial projectiles, whether it's, ballistic missiles, drones, what have you. And at that point, Israel will turn to Washington, D.C. for more bombs and, more military capability. And that's the point when hopefully Washington, D.C. can say, we may give you more, weapons, but it will come with stipulations. Because at this point, there's been no stipulations. It's been a blank check. Washington, D.C. has turned a blind eye to what what's been going on. So unfortunately, the world can do so much, but at the end of the day, it is Washington, D.C. who can stop Israel.
As an expert on West Asia affairs, there are those who say that yes, if America stops arming Israel, then this war will still go on because France did that, and Netanyahu was angry at France and other Western powers, as he called them. He said it's a shame that France or French President Emmanuel Macron has stopped arming Israel because he's fighting terrorism. So if they continue to arm him, they will be aiding him in fighting terrorism. So what do you tell those who still believe that even if the United States stops arming Israel, the war will still continue?
The war most likely will continue, but the shape in which that it will continue will change. We've seen how precise Israel's military, particularly the IDF, has been when it comes to assassinations, especially with Iran. The way that they assassinated, certain individuals of Hamas and Hezbollah, either in Iran or in Lebanon, they have the capability to be very precise in their attacks if their sole purpose is to fight terrorism, which in this case is Hamas and also Hezbollah. But the capabilities they have up to this point has been, like I said, a complete blank check where they can use any type of military that they want, any type of arsenal that they want, and it's essentially just dropping bombs indiscriminately on homes, hospitals, safe zones, migration camps. And if we're able to put a stop to that, to where there's a specific type of military capability that they can use on specific targets, to where it's more targeted and more focused, then we'll see less human casualties, less deaths of children, senior citizens, and women, and more of a coordinated attack against Hamas and Hezbollah. And then, of course, the counter argument is, well, they have underground tunnels and they use human shields and they're, hiding out in these hospitals and in camps. That to a certain point may be true, but after 1 year, it seems to be more of a talking point from the Israeli government rather than a military strategy, because even military experts inside and outside of Israel have pointed to the fact that there are other ways in which you can fight terrorism, you know, with those two being Hamas and Hezbollah, without having this massive 40,000 plus human casualty.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Mr. Reza Khanzadeh is a West Asia expert. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.